We're getting ready for the intro.
Letting people in. This will take a minute at most. So it's already Thursday again.
Wild.
So, yeah, this week flew by.
Yeah, it really did.
Yep. I was anticipating Don to be here. I texted him last week. I was like, Don, you're like after that second echo, that when he got that echo on his mic, I was like, Don, don't take it personally. I was like, it's like a zombie bite. You had to go. So I've got the mute everyone hotkey ready.
Don is
Did you get a new microphone?
It's a Don thing. I don't know. It's
I
don't know what was going on.
We're safe. He's visiting his mom.
It was the voices in Don's head.
Yeah, it was the voices in Don's head. It was all your guys' voices, so that's concerning.
I'm just really glad it wasn't me, because you were so sure it was me, and then I started to question, oh, maybe it is me.
It was quite a whodunit episode. So, all right. Well, we're letting the room fill in. We're going to get going in a second. If you've come to draw the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you're in the right place. I will say, if you went to the webpage and it was a Winter Olympics, hit refresh. I took me some extra time today to get around to this. So pictures were up a little late. All right, let's go.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is John. I'm here with Cassandra Loomis and Bill Cope. I had to look I had to look at his name. I haven't seen him for like 4 hours. And of course, Timmy's here with us. So welcome. If you're new to us, we're going to do 3 poses tonight. We're going to do the first is a 20-minute, the second is a 20-minute, and the third is a 40-minute. And then we're going to take a look at everybody's work. But tonight, we're drawing from the series, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, a series that I really enjoy. It's really well filmed. It's very well written. Keeps me entertained. First up, Marion Maisel. This will be a 20-minute pose. The second is her manager, Susie, blowing a bubble. And the third, you're going to have your choice of 2 photographs and 3 different people. So Shy Baldwin she was opening for this act for a while, and a great piece of photography there. And then her parents. And so this last pose, you can do both of these at the same time. You can do one of them. You can do all 3 of the people if you want. You have 40 minutes to play with. In between poses, it's great if you can post your work to hashtag illustration isolation on Instagram. And I'm all set and ready to start drawing. Actually, I've been drawing for about 10 minutes here. I've been sitting here listening to the chatter between everybody and getting everything set up. So anything else that needs to be said, Timmy?
No, we're all set to go. I just dropped a link in the chat to photos. It's looking like we're going to have kind of an intimate night with 3 artists on the panel. So a small group tonight, but it'll be a good one. Only other thing I'll say is we got mini courses. They're enrolling right now. So you can see links to all those pages, all the classes that are coming up on the photos page. Check it out. Bill Cobe is instructing one, comics and sequential art. We got color theory. All of them start next week. So today is the last day to enroll. So that's my bit. That's all I've got.
Bunch of good classes. We got Ray Bonilla teaching a head painting class, and both digitally and some traditional. And then we have Brent Watkinson teaching a color theory class, and Lisa Sear teaching a mixed media, experimental media class. So I wish I could take them all, but I can't. But you're all welcome to. So it's a great group of instructors and a great group of classes. So I'm ready to draw. Everybody else?
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
I already took care of your screen share, John. Don't worry about it.
I noticed that. Got rid of me.
Yeah, so the comics class should be a lot of fun. I've got Elisa Whitney is my guest speaker this time around. And Elisa actually was the person I went to and talked to about what would be good in a class on storytelling. For those who don't know, she is a former editor of Vertigo Comics, and she's a novelist. She's written horror, she's written humor books, she's written romance books and young adult novels. And she has a book coming out in April called Guilt, G-I-L-T. And it's about time travel, a portal to the past in an Upper West Side apartment. And it's going to be drawn by an artist named Alain Morissette. Well, it's already been drawn, Alain Morissette. And so she'll have a lot, and I'll have a lot of good things for you.
Sounds like a good book.
Yeah, it looks like a great book, and it's a lot of fun. And I've been talking to her over the past year while she's been writing it, and gotten a really interesting look inside the process of writing. So yeah, so it should be fun. Starts on thanks. Yeah, it starts on Tuesday.
I know that you had great reviews from your previous class, so
Thank you.
assuming you don't screw it up this time. It should.
Jab, jab, jab.
Yeah.
Got it.
It'll be better.
Keep Bill honest.
So have any of you guys seen any of season 4?
Well, I've seen the 2 that are out.
Yeah.
I guess Friday is they put 2 more out, right?
Is it, do they put 2 out at a time?
Yeah, 2 out every Friday, I think.
Awesome.
Of what? Sorry, I was blood drying.
Of
Are you caught up on this show?
I am.
I think I just started episode 3 of this newest season.
They already have it out?
I think that's what I saw. I can't remember. I've got
thought
mom
that-
brain.
I just thought they had the first 2 out. But I could be wrong. I thought that was the third one was coming out on Friday.
Oh, then maybe that's where we are. Maybe I watched the first 2.
I've not seen the show. I'm gonna give it
Oh,
a
it's
try.
so good.
I'm gonna give it a try tonight because I've been watching Euphoria.
Oh,
and,
that looks dark.
oof, it's too much. It's phenomenal. I think it's one of the best shows, but
Heavy.
too much for me. I've got to take a break from it.
This will cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
We watched Inventing Anna. Have you seen
Oh,
that?
how was that? Because Ruth is in it, right?
It's Ruth is the star. That's why I
Yeah.
watched it.
We're on season 4 now of Ozarks.
Everybody in the chat, no Euphoria spoilers. A lot of people like Euphoria in the chat.
Half the room leaves.
I'm gonna get to it. It's too much.
I was curious about it and I read the description. I was like, like I already get stressed out, and just reading the description stressed me out.
I don't think any parent should watch it.
Oh,
Just-
whoa.
it makes Generation Z look terrifying. But it's a really good story. I like it a lot. I think it, is good writing. Zendaya is awesome in it.
She's so talented.
Yeah. What's everybody? Let's go around our circle. What's everybody working with tonight? How about you, Bill?
Well, just a minute ago, my cat jumped on my computer, so I was about to draw with cat, but I'm working
Feline.
feline. Yeah. I'm working right now with New Pastel on some drawing paper I picked up just a little while ago.
Belted images with your cat hair, maybe?
He looks at the keyboard and he wants to jump up on the computer, which is on this little table next to me. And I have to, this morning I kept having to say no. And I turned away for a minute and he did it. So.
Then he destroyed your shirt.
Yeah, he did destroy a shirt. Yeah. Here's the. Let's see. Sorry. Here's the destroyed shirt. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good thing I wasn't into it.
Unless your belly button needs to air out.
It's paint rag. It's not even good as a running shirt now.
Terry, are you here?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we've got the former director of New York Society of Illustrators here.
Woohoo!
Panel, Terry Brown.
Hey, Terry.
He's just onboarding, so I bet he's trying to unmute. So pulled him from the crowd, or it's an imposter. That's totally impossible.
Terry's playing himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Terry, prove yourself.
Yeah, he just wrote guilty.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm stalking.
Hey, Terry. Glad you're here, man.
Yeah, it's so good to see you or hear you.
Good to hear you, Terry.
I do have a voice.
How's rural New York?
It's got its challenges. They giving us 6 inches of snow tomorrow, so that cancels
Awesome.
a lot. But hey, March is around the corner, and that's always a good month.
I'm jealous of your snow. We haven't gotten like really any down here.
Yeah.
Well, if I could FedEx it to you, I sure would. We had
I
too
appreciate that.
much sitting ice out in the dog
yeah.
attic.
I don't want the ice. I just want the snow.
So I'm just going to remind the crowd, and also if this is your first time joining us, a big part of the night is asking questions. So if you have questions about, how John, Bill, or Cassandra are working, how they draw a figure, anything like that, or it could be career, anything at all, just feel free to type it in the chat or in the Q&A, and we usually get to almost all the questions. So don't hesitate. Also, let us know if this is your first time joining and where you're tuning in from.
I started listening to a new podcast, and Terry, I think you would get behind it. It's called Art Curious. Have you listened to it at all, any of you?
Art Curious.
Not.
Curious enough, yeah.
Sounds like a jeweler on 47th Street in New York. You want some good diamonds? Go to Art Curious.
It's got
You should be a
it's got
character on Maisel.
It's got like 10 seasons, but I got sucked in with this season 6, where it made me think of you, Terry, because season 6 is major crimes connected to famous artists. Each episode is a different one. So like they went into the Black Dahlia and the Man Ray and Surrealist and how like there was some connections there. They were talking about trying to figure out whether or not Caravaggio died of natural causes or was he murdered. It went into the Jack the Ripper, you know, like it's just different episodes were different topics, and it was just really fun to listen to.
I wonder if they do an episode on Peter Max.
I haven't listened to all season 6, so they may have. What happened with Peter Max?
Well, Peter Max had an interesting scam. He had a man who was doing his taxes as a CPA. His name was Art Curious, and Art Curious, the CPA. And he was telling Peter that he should exchange paintings that are worth $400, $500, $600 a pop for real estate in the Hamptons, and just not report it. It's just a trade. It's not a sale. So all of a sudden, here's Peter Max selling 3 acres in East Hampton for $5.6 million. And somebody asked, well, where'd you get the money to buy the land? He says, oh, I traded a painting. Well, that's a sale, that's income. And he ended up getting busted and had to repay a lot of money.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh dear.
So Cassandra, when you trade a painting for someone to change the oil in your car, I'm sorry, you have to report that as a sale.
Good to know. I did not know. I just read an artist was mentioning that she won like a prize in a show, and she knew that like the prize money she had to report, but they also included gift cards, and she didn't realize she had to report the gift cards also.
Yeah.
So good topic with Peter Max. Terry, I remember seeing Peter Max's work in the Society of Illustrators, going through the very, very beginning ones. Started out as an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever met him?
I can't recall ever meeting him. There may have been a meet and greet and a said hello, but nothing beyond that. He was a good businessman. I mean, you have a long conversation whether Thomas Kincaid was a good artist, whether Leroy Neiman was a good artist. You can't deny they were good businessmen.
Well, we'd argue about Thomas. He was a good businessman for a while. then it kind of all imploded on him.
Yeah, it sounds like it caught up with him.
Caught up with him eventually.
Yeah. It's the idea of I want an accountant that, you you ask the accountant what's 2 + 2, and they say, what do you want it to be? It's not good. That's not good.
Sounds like Peter Max got tax advice from Willie Nelson's accountant.
Oh dear.
Well, taxes, as you all know, is a bizarre business. The other artist who had a tax situation was named Richard Amsel, A-M-S-E-L, and he was a very good artist to the point where he did the very first Star Wars movie poster, and before it was a thing. And when he died, an IRS agent came in and said to his person, how much did he get for the Star Wars poster? He says, oh, he got 25 grand. And so the IRS agent then went to the closet and counted 47 paintings. It says they're all worth that much. His
Oh,
tax
no.
bill is $8 billion. So the person who was helping Peter's estate had a sale, and he put them up as is for sale at the prices that the IRS was claiming for tax purposes. Didn't sell one of them, didn't want to, but it was fascinating to see the first Star Wars poster with all the patches, all the corrections. All of a sudden, Harrison Ford's picture was a little bigger because this agent said it has to be bigger, and someone else was in the background further. All these little patches were done on the final art. I'm not explaining it as well, but you can imagine those of you who do these things and have to patch something at the end when it was done analog and not digital. So there's another tax problem. Worked out okay. I give them credit for having done the right thing.
How can they just say, well, because this painting is worth this much, that that you got paid this much for this, that everything is, that seems like a very lazy blanket IRS.
Sure is, Bill. But once they say that's it, then the ball's in your court to do the due diligence to say, no, it's not worth $25,000. It's worth $800. That's the highest bid we got at a public auction.
Yeah.
I just went through something similar to that with my father's estate, and getting appraisal. First of all, it's very expensive, and they appraise it. That's why that's one of the main reasons they're appraising it, is so when they have a starting place of what the value is for the estate and what you sell it for. Anything that, if anybody in our family were to sell any of my dad's work, whatever that dollar figure that they established, anything above that, we have to pay taxes on.
Oh, wow.
And it's
So does that
there's only a few people
Yeah.
in the country that have the right credentials to appraise American illustration. So it's and they
that
have
encourages the person getting the artwork appraised to appraise high, correct?
There's another side of it. If it goes too high, then you got to pay estate tax on it. So you got it. There's a advantage kind of either direction.
Yeah.
But
we should save all this for a really thrilling tax episode.
It is tax season, so
Yeah,
we're on
That's what I was
point
gonna
here.
say.
what days of 15th fall on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's have a tax episode. I think we should all come in with one artist that that we all like. Everybody pick out your favorite artist who was ruined by taxation. Right? We'll do a tax episode. We've got some good questions though that I think might be a little bit more.
Well, before the question, though, I just want to say, like, if anybody needs to sell artwork cheaply to undervalue it, and keep the cost of their tax burden low, call me, because
Yeah.
Well,
How altruistic of you, Bill.
I actually
that's how I am.
think that conversation is kind of interesting with the Richard Amsel story. If you didn't, I mean, people should know who Richard Amsel is. Richard Amsel did a million TV guide covers, and very successful illustrator in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So what is, you've got everybody hooked. What's the story?
Yeah, what's the story, dude? I want to know.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you just did the intro for a story and then left.
No, you were cutting off a story that Terry was telling about Richard Amsel. That was an interesting story.
Yeah, he's the one that the IRS came in and just really nearly counted the canvases and did the math, and then.
Oh, I thought that we were done. I thought that the story was over. My apologies.
No, it's okay. It was.
Yeah.
But since we're moving on from taxes, which we should, and you have some questions, Bill Kolb, you posted a story, a nice thread about sending your kids to art school and college level.
Okay.
And I got a good friend, Richard Clark, who's 50 years old. Just talked to him yesterday, and his daughter's about to go off to college, probably go to a SUNY, State University of New York school.
Yeah.
And I posed that question to him, and he said, boy, that's broken up many a dinner conversation with her not wanting to go to junior college and then art school, but to go right into college. It was a good a good question you posed, and I think you've got some interesting answers. Did you expect
Well-
that kind of response?
Wait, what was the question?
Well,
Um,
I basically did the math for what it cost me to go to art school. And I did the math about what art school units are now. And so if we kids today were paying for basic, let's average it out, art school now, what I was paying, they would only be paying about $300 a unit. Art school units, they don't do it that way. I guess they do the whole cost, but it's about $1,000 a unit to go to an art college. And
Yeah. You mean a credit hour?
the credit hours, yeah,
Well,
$1,000.
that's an inexpensive art school.
Yeah, that's an inexpensive
Where
art
it's up to
school.
almost 2,000.
Yeah, and so
So what does that end up being per class?
So
Well,
that's
times
like
three.
$6,000 a class, $3,000 to $6,000 a class.
Yeah, I just want to break this down for people who aren't as maybe
So
seasoned on the topic. Yeah.
convert. I think at the most our units, when our credits went up to, we had 4 credit classes, and they were, I think when I left, they were about 175 a credit. So that's 125 to 175. That's like $300 or $400 not in nowadays money. And so my point is that I would suggest get your credits at a junior college and go to an accredited art school if you want to teach, but that there are other ways to get that information. And your program being one of them, because your program actually prepares people to work for a living in an industry. And there's a lot of online information. There's a lot of, and I basically said, like, if I were to do it again, probably what I would do, if I was smarter, is seek out the teachers that I want to work with and pay them directly.
Yeah. And you're talking about, if for those of you who don't know, we have an online mentorship program that this isn't all that we do, believe it or not. We run, online mentorship classes on a semesterly basis, and it's kind of an alternative learning experience.
And you're going to get better information. And so that was kind of my thing. And various people, some people agreed, some people said, well, I loved going to art school. And I'm like, that's not really the point. The point is that it's the expense.
Well, if you have the funds and, if it's right for you, do it.
Yeah.
But it's expensive.
Right. But like, man, I can't even, the percentage of, gosh, for you to have the funds to be able to spend it on a traditional art college, like not referring to people who get scholarships, or not referring to somebody who gets a scholarship, but to put, to be in a situation where you have, 150 grand to throw at an art school. Oh man, you're at a different bracket.
Right.
Like,
So
that's a degree of wealth that is and privilege that's just unbelievable,
Right. So my point is that, and also I teach high school kids on Saturdays, and a lot of them, they hear the names of these schools, and I'm not knocking the schools. Schools have good programs, but they want to go to a given program, but they don't really know. They just have heard that it's good, but they can't back it up with why it's good.
Yeah.
Who's teaching there? Who studied there? What are what are you going to get out of it? And granted, these are young kids. These are 6, 17-year-old kids.
Yeah. I do think that there is a bit of a, and this is the con that I think I was sold when I was in college, or when I was looking at colleges, which was, and I was definitely a candidate of a person who probably did not need to go to college. But I was told time and time again, a lot of it is the experience, the social interaction you get and all of that. And it was just, I think, a lazy answer for I don't know what to tell you, but we want your money.
Yeah.
It wasn't compelling, that's not a compelling enough reason, the social atmosphere, to spend, 6 figures on an education,
Right.
if that makes sense. I think you got to have a pretty compelling, you couldn't get a loan from a bank for 160 grand by saying, I need it for the social experience,
Well, there's also the other side of that.
Yeah.
The shows what a lot of people don't understand. And again, I have a lot of very good friends and that teach at good art schools. My issue is the amount of time and the expense that it costs. But it's art school's a different experience than going to a liberal arts school. And it's sometimes it's not what people think it is, what it's going to be.
So I just think, there's alternatives now that didn't exist, that weren't readily available in between 1985 and 1988.
Is anybody tuning in considering going to a traditional art school, or on the fence, or know somebody who's juggling that right now? I'm just curious.
And I'm also all for education. Like, I think the more educated you are, the better off you are.
Sure. We talked about that last week, It's like, we're not anti-learning, but man, you need to spot a bad deal when you see one.
Well, I felt really lucky because I went to VCU, which is a state school, so it was way more affordable. And it had a lot more opportunities because it wasn't just an art school. It's like also a medical school and a business school, and there's engineering. So I got exposed to a lot of other things and had interesting opportunities because of the kind of school it was. So I think there's lots of ways to look at things too.
Yeah. Yeah. And believe me, look, I got to study with, Baron Story and an artist named Bill Shields, and a really great sculptor named Tom Marsh was my anatomy teacher. And I had, and I went to school with some really talented and smart people. But it's a different landscape than it was.
Yeah.
No, that's true. And I have trouble comparing because, the opportunities that are available now weren't available then. So I'd have.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yes.
That's
what I wrote.
Okay. So we are at the end of this first pose.
No.
So we need to move on. We're going to move on to pose 2. So if you've been drawing with us, which I hope you are, please post your work to Instagram using hashtag illustration isolation and @visualartspassage. At the end of the night, we're going to look at everybody's work. So please post it. Don't wait till the end. Do it now.
We want to see it. It's always really exciting, and we love everybody trying different techniques, using different supplies. It's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Here's a question for you, Cassandra. Are you painting with an acrylic gouache or something else?
Oh, I am just painting with straight acrylic on cardboard. So I treat the cardboard with Golden GAC 100, which is like a clear primer acrylic medium. And then it means that the acrylic can just sit right on top of the cardboard beautifully. But I have used the acrylic gouache other weeks, but this is just straight acrylic this week.
All right, here's a question that I think is a good leap from our higher ed conversation, which I don't think is talked about enough. But what are some decent paying career paths for illustrators or print designers? The first thing I think of whenever I hear about illustrators, and specifically on the topic of good paying, tattoo art. Like, oh man, I have met some illustrators. John, I know you know a few who do very well financially with tattoo.
It's an option.
It's just one. I mean, there's just so many different routes you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Anybody?
I think you think outside of the box. I worked 14 years for Trader Joe's doing art and murals for them, and had retirement, medical, vacation, and that was a whole lot of painting, but it's all grocery store related.
I was a graphic designer for a grocery store for a year.
Which grocery store?
It's a small one in Chapel Hill called Weaver Street Market.
Oh, fun. I didn't know that, Bill.
I branded their store. This was back in 2005, and I branded their entire store, and they used my stuff for a long, long time after I was gone.
Well, I can talk to that question a little bit, Timmy. And I think that I would start with the most obvious and probably the easiest barrier of entry into the industry is the editorial world, doing magazine illustration. And when people think about magazine illustration, it is not just Time Magazine and Newsweek or the New Yorker. You go, look around when you go to the doctor, look at the magazines that are in their doctor's offices. I mean,
I would also say I wouldn't limit it to print. Like you're talking about digital publications when you say
yeah, absolutely.
That's majority of the market now. Yeah.
But there's so many other avenues for editorial. And it's probably the easiest and barrier of entry into the industry. Every city has their local, they have, even if the newspapers aren't being printed, but they have their newspapers and local magazines, and there's a lot of opportunity there to get started. And then at the high end, there's obviously the major editorial market. There's also the illustrations broken into advertising, institutional, editorial, and book illustration. And then there's the comic world, the sequential world that is connected to it. Along with book, other opportunities, which is happened over the last 25 years, is the visual development industry, and that is designing character, designing for the look and feel of animation and cartoon. And now it's even more a little bit more difficult to understand because the games and movie industry have visual development departments. It used to just be animation and cartoon. Mm-hmm. But there's all kinds of options there. The video game industry offers tremendous amount of opportunity for artists that are willing to learn the skill sets and that apply to the pipeline of what they produce. So does think about Marvel. So does the movie world. But think about opportunity. Who's got more money than the games business right now? That's just been incredibly successful and a great venue for a lot of emerging artists. Most important thing I'll say about any of it is it's a requirement. I think we were talking. This kind of ties in the educational thing too. It's like identify the outcome you want and learn the skill sets associated to that part of the industry and have a plan and a path, because it's quantifiable. There's good paths and bad paths. There's a right way to approach it, and acquiring the right skill set. And again, tying the education thing, that's what I've been doing for 28 years now. Identifying, helping people develop themselves to work in the industry. First question I ask anybody is, what part of the industry you want to work in? What is it that you want to do? And it requires you to have to commit and have to identify the direction you want to go into. So anyway, I hope that helps. That might spawn a few more questions too.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, I was thinking about the jobs that have disappeared from, editorial and publishing, just because, just frankly, those are industries that are being disrupted by a lot of other things. And then you know, and everybody always looks at the jobs lost, but they don't look at the jobs created by the new, you know, enterprises. And you think about, I mean, we're living in a, like, the entertain yourself to death era of entertainment, you know? I mean, really, we are. And
Yeah, no, I've never thought of it that way, but it's a great way to describe it.
Entertain yourself to death.
that's a book written by kind of like a pop psychologist, I think. I'm trying to, that's not an original.
Credit for that.
Thanks, Bill. But it, you know, I would imagine the opportunities are tenfold what they used to be just in that entertainment world.
Well, there's,
It's
think about,
more than tenfold. It's 20 and 30-fold.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know what their part is. Where are their hands and eyes going to be used in that industry? You have to get around people who are actually in it, doing it. Well, not the top level people, but the day-to-day grunts, and find out what it's like to actually work in that industry. The fellow
Yeah.
Richard Clark I mentioned earlier, he just finished a 9-month project on a graphic novel. He says, I won't do another one. I finished this one. I got paid for it, but it was
Yeah.
a tad tedious. And I think that's something you have to learn. The bad assignment that you took, but it taught you something about how the business works. You all talk about editorial and say, oh, it's not what it used to be. You got to have a little bit of smarts. Got to be out there, find out what's going on. As you did 10 years ago, 20 years, 40 years ago, you had to know what was being changed, whether it was
Yeah.
aesthetically or socially acceptable. Today in the New York Times, story, the New York Sun, which is a newspaper that's been around for 100 years, been out of business for 3 years, coming back as a digital only.
Right.
Okay, so they're hiring a group of artists, probably some people the art director knows. You pick it up. You go online, you see what it is. You find 2 stories in there, and you illustrate them the way you would have done them.
Yes.
And that's what you send to the art director. Say, see, I saw you do that story about high-rise buildings. I would have done it this way. All of a sudden, you went out of your way you actually know our publication, kind of get their attention. I only mention that because there was a great artist named Matt Mahurin, Mahurin.
Oh yeah, I like his work.
Last in his class at Art Center College of Design, came to New York, became the first in his class. He said he saw an article in Time magazine and he re-illustrated it, took it to the art director. The art director was blown over by it, said, I'm going to give you the next assignment. And it was 8 pages of illustrations, the subject, of rape. But he got a 8-page spread in New York Times because he went out of his Time magazine, because he went out of his way to think. And that's part of the puzzle, gang, is you gotta think how I can be creative and get somebody's attention.
He was also different enough using photographs and painting on them. And I believe he did the cover for that story too.
yes.
And that was like one of his first jobs. And then Matt Mahurin went on to make music videos and define the look of music videos in the 90s. And they,
Yeah.
The other, there's all kinds of things that, we were talking about different marketplaces, different avenues. I just had this conversation with several artists, and the popularity of RPG games, Magic the Gathering cards right now, and it's not just the making the card, which it's the audience wrapped around it, the role-playing games that are become so popular. The artists are all starting to do the originals digitally, or not do them digitally anymore, do them traditionally, because they can sell the original paintings back to the audience, and they're getting huge dollars for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking about it. It's like
No. It's like it's huge.
One of them just went over 150 grand.
Wow.
And there's been several that recently that have sold for over 100 grand. And that just amazes me that market's there. And it's attached to kind of another another thing, the role playing game, the RPG games, but the card market is a really great place, and it's a great place for illustrators to work. Even better that market exists now. But it's illustration's always followed technologies anyway. It's always been chasing it.
Also, say you do something like, you're talking about the person that did the graphic novel or whatever. And you go in a direction and you don't like it, or you're in an industry that you get some satisfaction out of, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not. The nice thing about what we do is that what you do for a living is not the be all and end all of your artistic voice or expression. And when I was doing graphic design, making a living at it, I was still drawing and painting and pursuing that and things that I wanted to do. Even comics, although I had a project fall through that I wanted to do, but it doesn't. You don't have to be limited by what's out there already in terms of what you do. You can choose many paths.
It's an interesting question about like what opportunities are there that are good, like that pay well, because I do think like there is a bit of like a philosophical aspect of the question, because you're an individual who's become an artist because you want to be creative or you want that outlet. There's something that you personally get from being creative or creating images. And so I do think you set yourself up, if you're too fascinated by what will pay or what is a functioning career, that then you're not going, if you just chase the money or like whatever you think is going to pay well, there's a good chance that like neither will come, like you won't enjoy what you're doing and you might not get paid well.
Absolutely.
I do get it if you want to, can it be a living,
But then there's an aspect of it, because like that I would say is probably healthier, and it's like somewhere in between. And I felt this way, like I wanted to be a writer, and so like I got jobs writing and they weren't always at the coolest places, but I got tons of experience doing it. It was the same deal with photography. It's a moving target.
Timmy, you've heard me say this a bunch, and it's totally true, and that is want outruns talent in our industry all the time. And if you don't choose the direction that you really want to work in, if you don't identify it and work on what you develop, what you really want to do, it's really hard to compete with somebody that really wants to do it. You can't.
The phrase is hard work beats talent when talent hardly works.
Well, it's not just that. It's like you're not gonna work hard at something that you don't want to do.
Right.
And so you better choose what you really want to do, because you're part of the requirement is you're going to have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
Well, I always think of how you describe Chris Payne. Like he would be doing exactly what he did in his parents' basement, even if no one bought it. Like he loves what he's doing, and like he's become successful because he works very hard at it, but he just genuinely enjoys what he's doing.
Yeah. But I would also say, I would caution anybody from doing, like there's always the amazing story of, it's the Uber of the world. They bet on this idea that nobody was doing and everybody thought it was dumb. And it turns out that they were right and it paid off, a millionfold or whatever. 99% of the time though, it's like, if you find something and no one else is doing it,
there's a reason.
There's usually a reason. And there are very great, inspiring stories of when people made that bet, and it's great. But I do say, like, sometimes I'm like, don't put all of your eggs in the basket. Unless I guess that's your, sometimes people have this gut, they just know it and they go with it, and that's inspiring and exciting. But part of me is also like find something that has some promise, you know, and then like you were saying, John, dedicate yourself to it. So,
Well, there's a lot of places to go right now. There's a lot of opportunity in our business.
yeah,
And
actually, on kind of on this topic,
for the people who are prepared for it.
yeah, you know, on the topic of committing to something that no one else is doing, I knew somebody that, like, this is probably 12 years ago, or maybe I was like a freshman in college. They built a website that was a click through, very much like a VR experience, where when you went to their homepage, you were in a VR environment and you click through it to find different parts of their company and learn about. It was like a physical, it felt like you were in a physical space navigating it, and people hated it. They thought it was a horrible idea. It was really just so ahead of its time. It was insane. And it failed really badly. And it was like tons of wasted money. And I got a call this week for somebody asking me how to develop a website like that. And I was like, I saw one like that like 12 years ago, you know, too soon. Nobody was doing it. It wasn't because it was a good idea.
I think it's also like how people use the web has evolved.
Yeah.
And I used to love this website called the Urban Diary, and it was like thumbing through somebody's journal, you know, and you clicked on different things and go to different places. And I like that idea of the internet as that kind of experience, but that's not really how people use the internet, you know. That's just how I like to use it. And so that's kind of knowing, you kind of have to know, you know, like John was saying, you have to know the industry, you have to know who's doing what. And you should be able to identify who the artists are, who the creators are working in the industry you want to work in. If that's, you know, at the very least.
And probably if you can meet people that do it and ask them if you can ask personal questions, you know, be respectful, but say like, how's that industry? What's it like working in it? You know?
Timmy, I always thought that one of the good comments I got about the world of illustration and what the real soul of it is came from Gary Kelly. And he said, someone asked him, why did you become an illustrator? He says, because I'm curious. I want to know what's the next drawing I have to do. I want to wake up and have somebody call me and say, I need 2 asparagus making out in the backseat of a car. I need to have something I've never done before become exciting for me to do. And I think that's something that a youngster who wants to become an illustrator has to come to terms with. You're going to be asked some days to do images that you don't want to do, but you have to do them and do them really well. And if that's exciting to you, then I think illustration is something in all of its various permutations and going forward. That's part of the game, is the excitement of not knowing what your next image is going to be. If you say, no, I want to wake up in the morning and say, you know, I had this idea, dream about 2 asparagus, I'm going to paint it. That's not being an illustrator. It's the one who gets the call and says, we need this, and we need a Thursday, we need a vertical, mostly green, thank you very much. That's what makes I think a real solid, happy illustrator who goes to an event somewhere and tells that story. You won't believe the call I got, you know.
Well, and then also, like, it ends up being one of their best pieces because they would have never thought to try to do that piece, and then they make it their best piece because they fully accept that challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the most amazing things to me, is to look through, whether it's Society of Illustrators or Spectrum, that all of those pieces in there were not the artist's choice in most cases. I mean, I got those was the unpublished section, but the generally those artists were solving somebody else's problem, somebody else's assignment, and they did it so well.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes those, to me, that makes those resource books even more powerful.
Definitely.
I see you guys are doing Mrs. Maisel. I'm going to keep paying Prime because I love that show. Is anyone upset at all about the language in it?
And Mrs. Maisel?
Yeah, I wonder if it was true to form that in 1959 you could be that rough on the stage of the Bitter End down in Soho in Manhattan.
I feel like it was supposed to be based roughly on Joan Rivers, and wasn't she known for being
Yeah.
like a bit more colorful with her language?
Good thought. Yes, yes.
Well, you think about Buddy Hackett. I mean, Fox. What's his name?
Red Fox.
Red
Red
Fox. I
Yeah.
mean, that stuff is
Yeah. I gotta
just
say,
as blue as anything today.
yeah. 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 I listen to a lot of comedian podcasts, and it was I have not watched the show, but I believe that it was probably pretty vulgar. So yeah.
I mean,
Well, you know, I different than my mom and my dad, but my mom not so much. But there was some pretty colorful language in our household. It wasn't a regular event. I remember going to other people's household as a kid and hearing like words that I'd never heard of before, or couldn't believe that they said those things, you know, to each other in a family environment. And so it's definitely changed, you know. I know it's changed for me. I mean, my kids and the language, I try to pay attention to it, but I just think people are more lax with it now.
John, it's so funny because when I was a kid, I was not allowed to curse it. I mean, like, that would have been a nightmare if, you know,
I never heard my mom swear.
if I swore in a house, it would have been scary when I was little. But what's funny is, and I was thinking about, you mentioned going to other kids' houses. I remember that, but there was a time, you know, we had like a sleepover, and we were probably like in third or fourth grade, and my dad had gotten they'd done prints for Mark, and it was the figure of the woman's back.
mhm.
I know your dad did tons of those, but you've shown this image in slides before your dad's work.
It's titled The Woman, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, I grew up around illustration and artwork, and so we never thought anything of it. But man, these kids left our house, and like, I think the first thing they did was they went home and they were like, the Treybons have some really wild artwork in their house. And my parents had to deal with these calls of being like, what's on the walls of your home? Like, and it was like, okay, you like Puritans. Yeah, so they had to explain it. I always thought that was funny. My dad couldn't, he thought that was just the most, you know, annoying thing to have to deal with any parent of other kids that were in my life. Yeah.
Terry, probably saw some of the artwork of Bob Heindel and paintings he did mostly of his wife, but he did a lot of nudes. And my father thought it would be a good idea to call his house and get his wife on the phone, pretend like he was from the Easton, Connecticut Police Department. And so they had all kinds of complaints from the kids in the parents and kids in the neighborhood about the pornography that was hanging all over their walls. And he convinced Bob convinced Rose that they needed to bring the artwork to the police station.
Nuh-uh.
True story. Finally, after I think just out of guilt, he couldn't believe he was successful with it. He had to give in and, you know, say, hey, you know, this is Mark.
Man.
But can you imagine? He said it was so funny because Bob was always so, I don't know, he wasn't aggressive, but he was confident. but he was really, my dad said he was really, really nervous in that conversation. He didn't know how to react or deal with it, and realized that he had taken it too far.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Well, it was a time when it was I mean, man, I would say things have changed, like the censorship has changed, but then it's also in some ways with technology it hasn't, because
Right.
we still can't run, like, if we want to do a figure drawing class, we can't, and I understand the complications of it. We can't run ads on Facebook that show figure drawings. With nude figure drawings, a lot of that I think has to do with Facebook's unwillingness to dedicate proper the proper like labor hours to vetting ads. And so they just have probably a AI that vets everything.
But didn't Timmy at one point, I think you were the one that actually told me this the first time, was that Facebook is so stringent about that is because other cultures, it's a real taboo.
Some of it was some of it, it's more just that, and they're getting better at it. It's not entirely that. That's because it's hard for me to like get into the details of like how Facebook is filtered globally and how people see different things, different places. But largely it was taking place in the advertising aspect of it. And it was just because they had a nightmare handling advertising, and they're pretty much responsible for like the biggest fiasco in advertising history, which, was selling ads to other countries of interest, right? I think we all don't need to get into it, but we all know the story. And so it's just, but when it comes down to the art, they're trying to, I believe the intention is to do a good thing, is to filter out the stuff that really should not be on Facebook. But they just don't have it's so labor intensive. We actually had a student one time that worked on the team. John, you probably remember, she worked as a member of Facebook, as a person that just went through all of the content. And said there there's hundreds of coworkers of hers that they just had to look at stuff all day and flag it. And not only was it like tedious, but it was like a very traumatic job to have, like not a good job. So I think
overwhelming.
So I think that is why artwork gets censored now so much. I don't think that it's because of the, like, Facebook has a issue with it, but it's really tricky.
Yeah, and the question of cross culture is a good one.
I don't think that's the reasoning behind it. The Facebook's too advanced for that to be a reason. It's just not. That's not it. Yeah, it's mostly robots misidentifying things.
Yeah. Well, the sketch class is a hoot. The Society of Illustrators had 4 nights of sketch class. They had a portrait, 2 nude nights, and a clothes model.
Yeah.
And when I was first working there, I was finding out what art was, and they said, "Oh, we have this model upstairs." I saw the woman going up who would be the model. I said, "Interesting. Can I take a peek in the window?" And they said, "Sure." And there was maybe 20 people sketching her, and then they took the break, and she seemed so relaxed modeling. And the next day I asked a couple of people, how can you sit there and stare at this nude woman for 3 hours? And he says, well, you only notice she's nude for the first 2 minutes. After that, it's a shape here and a shadow there. And I thought that's
so true.
That is how artists see the figure. They're not necessarily the whole concept. You guys are great. Thank you for letting me have a microphone for a few minutes. And
Terry, glad to have you here, man.
Yeah, Terry, thanks for popping in.
My pleasure. Go get him, gang.
All right, so it's 7 o'clock, which means it's time. It's 7:05 actually. It's time to move on to our third and final image.
Curses.
I just did.
I love the way you did the gum blowing.
That's what reminded me, John, is I was like, oh, we got to go. So we've got 2 images you can choose from. They're option A and option B. One is Tony Shalhoub, and the other is, I can't remember. It's option B. So
So it's the guy playing Sly.
there we go.
Leroy,
Yeah. So so please post your work from reference 2 and move on to reference 3. And we're gonna keep drawing. This is a longer pose. This is usually a 40 minute pose. So but yeah.
get over into it one moment. I feel like I can't let go yet.
Oh, I know the feeling. We had fun this morning for Studio Bridge. We drew Luke Kirby, who plays Lenny Bruce in the show, and
Oh, that's such a great character.
he's
So
such
it really is. I mean,
such a great face. And we drew Susie, and then we also drew Miriam. John, the reference is on the website. If you go to visual.
Don't worry about it, Bill. I'm just gonna chat. All right.
Thanks. I appreciate
No worries.
it.
Yeah.
Much faster than me telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, but if anybody has any questions about the artworks, and I like this question a lot. How old are you? and how long have you been doing art?
I'll answer that one first because I'm the oldest one here.
No, I'm gonna say it. You don't have to tell everybody how old you are.
No, I don't mind at all. I decided I started being an artist. Decided I wanted to be an artist. I started drawing when I was a teenager, and I started working as an artist when I was 21, and it's what I've been doing my whole life, and I'm 61 years old.
John,
When you're young.
Yeah. John, when you started drawing as a teenager, and for those of you who don't know, John's dad is Mark English, very acclaimed, famous American illustrator. When you started drawing as a teenager, was it kind of a big moment, or did you just start doodling? Like what?
No,
Was your dad, was there like a moment of?
no, it was probably more out of boredom than anything. I moved from a little town in Connecticut when I was 16 years old to Kansas City, and moved on my 16th birthday, actually. And
What a nice present.
what a nice present. Yeah. And I knew nobody. My birthday's right around Christmas time, so I wasn't in school. And I just, I kind of looked around, and I knew my dad was good at something. I didn't know exactly what. And so I started discovering a little bit more about him. And I just started drawing. And then it, decided when I went to school, I decided I'd take some art classes, and pretty soon I was interested. Hardest thing I had to do is convince him that I was serious enough to do it. Yeah, so I've been doing it for 40 plus years. It's my only job I ever had also.
Really? You never had like a gig?
Just in when I was like going to college.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like,
Yeah, I worked worked on a construction site. I waited table. I was the worst waiter ever.
I cannot imagine you made a table.
I would love to see that.
I know. I can't picture that either.
Oh my God, that would so many dinners ruined.
Yeah, I
That
got
didn't
really,
last long.
no, I got really sideways with a customer one night, and that was the end of my waiter job.
Is that like night 2?
But yeah, it was about week 2.
Okay. So
That
you
was
hung in
awful.
there. You hung in there. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Who is nobody has to say how you don't have to say how old you are, but when did you start making art, Bill?
I'll go next. Yeah, I'm 57. I'll be 57 in a month. So I'm
Oh, happy birthday.
so but I got interested in art really at a very young age. And 5 or 6 years old, I started noticing art and liking it. And then in elementary school, I think I was about 10 years old, and I started thinking that I wanted to be an artist. And I was, of course, I was just copying comic books, and I wanted to be a comic book artist because that's kind of all I knew. I've had lots of jobs in my life. One of my first jobs, I was working for a sign painter, and I learned a lot about holding a brush and precision and skills that I didn't have.
You've heard my dad's take on that, haven't you, Bill?
No, what's that?
My dad was a depression baby, and his family lived in this little town in Texas. He had 5 brothers, well, he had 4 brothers and a sister, and his father owned and ran a grocery store. And on the front of his grocery store, when the rodeo came through town, they'd hire a sign painter to paint signs on the front window. And my father kind of observed this and was fascinated with this guy's ability to paint these, horses and cowboys and stuff. And he just thought, oh my God, that's amazing. And then he saw the guy get paid one day, and it took him like an hour to paint the sign, and his father had to pay him $75. This was in 1940.
Yeah.
And my dad at the time was hired out to work in the fields and made like $1 a day.
Yeah.
He thought, that's amazing. That
Yeah.
and he loved to draw. And so by the time he was like 13, he decided he could do the same thing the sign painter was doing. So he did his father's store, then he started doing the other stores around town, and he started his own sign painting business.
So smart.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
And he was still painting horses and cowboys when he was 85 years old.
Yeah. And it's funny because seeing your dad's work younger, you think of him, I thought of him as New York Illustrator originally, and so I couldn't figure out why this New York Illustrator was so fascinated by horses. But then later on, you hear his story and where he grew up and the things that he was exposed to, and he always found a way to make them, I think, more interesting than what they were. Not that they're not interesting to paint or draw, but yeah, the guy I worked for, his name was Bill Davidson. I don't know if he's still around, but I was about 16 years old and living in Livermore, California. And I had a job at a pizza place, I think, for about a week. And got a job helping him, paint walls in comic book shops, and learning how to hand letter. And of course,
that's a handy tool.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, I wasn't that good at it, but I still remember, my hands still kind of remember the moves to how to draw, how to do that stuff. And he was cool. He would let me just practice on things and try things out. And I watched him detail a car, which was the coolest thing. He had an old Roadster and he put flames on it and then he pinstriped it.
Oh my gosh, those guys are so good. And
Oh, what a steady hand you have to have.
It was amazing. And, and so that to me was the coolest thing. And then I also learned about silk screening t-shirts and how to do photo silk screens and stuff.
It's another good thing.
Yeah. Tony Shalhoub doesn't look like Tony Shalhoub yet. Yeah, so I guess I don't know, I've been making, I've made a living as an artist on and off since I was about 24, I think. Well, actually in school, I got a job while I was in school. So I was 21.
There's something you said there that I'm going to talk about the importance of it. And when I remember thinking to myself when I started to be able to make a living as an artist and thinking, not realizing how lucky I was for one. And I was lucky when it came to the illustration world, just because I understood it because I was around a lot of people that were good at it. And that understood it really well. But I think as an artist, the day you kind of recognize and the day you are capable of making your living by your art, that's a good day.
That is a good day.
Because you can focus on making artwork all the time. That's all you got to worry about. You as far as career goes, and it's like the more you put into it, the better it gets. And I just remember thinking, and I still do, when I see students that are I see them making that transition and I realize how important it is that all of a sudden they're able to make a living from the artwork that they make, because then they can really focus on being an artist then.
Yeah. And it's not an easy job. It's, I had to learn, it took me a long time to figure out the business side of things, or certain parts of the business side of things. I don't think the school I went to prepared me that well for the business part of being an artist. But things have gotten better at places. Cassandra, what about you?
I am 40, and I've been lucky that out of school, I think my first job while I was trying to find like an art job, I worked for an antique furniture restorer, which later came to really help with what I'm doing now.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I was like determined not to waitress because I wasn't a very good waitress. Like I've spilled a whole tray of drinks in a guy's lap before. Like I didn't have the balance ability. I'm in awe of that. And I'm kind of an introvert, so I was a little overwhelmed by having to talk to people all evening long. That was hard. But yeah, I got out after that. Within a few months, I found a job at Trader Joe's because honestly, I went to Illustration Academy and I assessed where I was, and I wasn't as good as the competition, and I wanted to get good. So I was really lucky to get a job at Trader Joe's where I had to do a whole lot of work really, really fast, and I got to use a whole lot of different materials, and it let me experiment, and I was paid the whole time. So I feel so lucky for that job and that opportunity, and it let me figure out what I wanted to do, because when I wasn't working, if I, like, when I had time, I was working on my own paintings on the side. So I think, you know, after 14 years with Trader Joe's, by the time I had kids and I got out, I realized where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and I had a lot of work ready to go. And so now I do a lot of gallery work. I'm starting to do some illustration work too now. But yeah, I feel very lucky that I get to do it.
Absolutely.
I remember hearing this for the first time. Chris Payne talking to a group of students, and he said, I just want everybody to understand and realize, if you can make this work, how lucky you are. And and he was talking about how lucky he is. He said, I know, and it's important for me to think about this, that I function in the toy department of life.
Mhm.
I was just like, that is good.
I love that description.
Yeah. He was actually talking about, some student asked him about risk taking as an artist, and he's Chris, so irreverent, so funny. He said, hey, when I'm working, the only risk that's being taken is the piece of paper I'm working on. That's the only thing taking a risk. He goes, if fighter pilots take a risk, he said, artists don't.
Yeah.
He was trying to bring it into perspective. And I get both sides of that, how important it is to experiment and evolve as an artist. But truthfully, we are in the toy department.
Yeah.
Yeah. It, a lot of people argue, no, we do take risks. It's like, explain that to a surgeon.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, not even a surgeon. Explain that to a firefighter or a police officer,
Right.
a soldier.
Yeah. Last night I was trying to show a student how to, add color to a painting, and just how to not be so timid about it. So I took my hand and I put it into his paint in his palette. I hadn't brought any brushes with me. And I took my hand, I put it in his palette, and I smushed it around, I made a color. And then, I asked him if it was okay if I worked on his painting. And then I just, made a mark kind of across an area, and he looked at me and he's like, you're so brave. And I'm like, there's nothing brave about it. You can always paint over this.
It's not even my painting.
It's not even my painting. So, it's like, there's really no risk.
That's the funniest part of it.
That's the funniest
Yeah,
part.
no kidding.
That cracked me up. It's like, it's easy to be brave. It's your painting,
Bill, I would have loved it if you had just done that and then just looked at him and said, sorry.
Oh man, that was really a mistake,
Oh, yeah. If you learned anything, don't do that.
Yeah, so it's but I don't know, you're gonna have ups and downs, and it's I think Sterling gave some really good advice the other night, which was to live as cheaply as you can while you're trying to develop your skills and get somewhere. And
were we talking about that on Monday about or no, I was talking with you and John, Bill, about my tolerance of uncomfortable living is slowly deteriorating every year.
Oh yeah.
My patience for discomfort is just slowly going down. And so my advice is to get all the uncomfortable stuff out of the way as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I think I may have even said this last week, because when I decided to be an artist, my dad had all kinds of concerns about it. First, he was smart enough to know that I was going to run into some issues of his success with his success, which really wasn't all that bad for me. More good things came from it than bad things. But he told me, he said, something I just want you to be aware of. This was like right when I was getting out of school. He said, I don't buy into this starving artist bullshit. So basically telling me I had to figure out how to make a living. So I thought it was pretty funny. Still think
That's
it's
great.
Well, it is though, like, because they're just, I feel like it's a good excuse. I mean, the struggle is real, and I understand that, but like, I think a complacency with it is unnecessary. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
or
Like, there's plenty of opportunity, and you do have to work really hard. Does that make? I don't know, because there is a lot of luck too. So it's not like I'm not saying like pull yourself up by your bootstraps type thing, but I don't know.
I think one of the most important things that I've learned over the years is to surround yourself with people who are doing something that you want to do or that you're doing.
yeah, it's like when I look at Cassandra and I say there was a lot of luck. The luckiest thing is she met Sterling Hunley. that was lucky for her that that he happened to be at that school that she was
Yeah.
that she was going
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, he told me about Illustration Academy too.
Yeah.
Um, That's kind of serendipitous. That's cool.
Yeah. And especially if you're in a situation where you're a family that doesn't understand or doesn't see that it's a palpable way of making a living, is just you're going to learn a lot from other people. You're going to they've struggled with the things that you're struggling with, or you can struggle through them together. And having friends that do what you do or want to do is really an invaluable thing, I think.
Well, here's a great Sterling Hunley line. And he said, I listened to him he said this when we were recording him one day, Timmy, talking about art school. And he said, art students don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that they don't understand kind of what we were talking about earlier, the opportunities,
Right.
and identify the skill sets that they have to learn to work in the industry and how it functions, because it's kind of hidden. It's not something, it's like how many parents don't know what anything about the art industry when their child says, hey, I want to be an artist. What do? How do they react? And it's like the unknown part, it's always scary for people. But I think then when people try to really look at the industry and figure out, oh, there is a method to this madness. And I like to think that's what we like to help people with at our program.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that makes it such a valuable program.
Yeah, it's a moving target. Somebody asked a question earlier, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And it's largely because it's such a moving target question. That is, how do you gain exposure and gain connections within the art community when you're starting out as an artist? It's like the answer to that question is 100% different than really anybody over the age of 30 is, who's a working artist now that found success in maybe like their late 20s or early 30s. That experience is totally different today.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that question is like, it's a very dynamic question. It's very much based on what specifically do you want to do as an artist? And then, where are those opportunities? And, it's like, I think the oversimplified answer is like, get famous on Instagram. Like, I don't know, but it's very nuanced. It's like, I would say do everything you can. But I'm trying to think, it's like, that's a great question for like, I'd be curious. It's like what Ray has to say, or some of people that are like tapped into the most current things. But
Yeah.
Cassandra, you've had like a lot of success getting exposure through Instagram, right?
Well, it's more, I've been able to connect more, like figure out what my community is or where I belong in the art world because of Instagram. And then because of that, I've been able to connect with the right galleries
Yeah.
that I feel like supports the kind of art that I do.
Yeah. And that world is like changing. You're like, the way in which you're able to do that might be totally different a year from now.
Yeah. And it's really ever changing. So, I don't know that, like, I remember Noah Scalin was talking about this, and he was just saying, like, I'll happily tell you how I got to where I got to, but I'll promise you there's no way you can get there the same way as me, because it's just that path isn't available.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a great example would be like if you get access to one of the best American illustrators, Mark English, and ask him, be like, I want to have a career like yours. How do I get started? He'll be like, become a sign painter.
Right. What cowboy? Paint a cowboy.
Right, John? Or like start. Yeah, making signs for rodeos.
Yeah.
But I think, pursue what you love, figure out who's doing what you love, and, see what they're doing with that. And that helps give you a direction to look.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where I think community comes into play.
Yeah, Bill, to what you're saying, community is huge, because I think that's why so many of our students have had success, is because they find this, really incredible community online that's like really, I think, tight knit and passionate.
And it's full of successful artists.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm just talking about the students, but when you mix in the fact that the teachers are part of that community, it really becomes quite the resource. It's like a pretty incredible resource,
Yeah. I mean, when I started going to comic book conventions and I met George Pratt and other artists there, that was huge, because they were already doing what I wanted to do, and many of them were helpful.
It's funny. I create I would say call them like goal mood boards of what I would like to happen for me, vision boards, I would say. And one of the things that I've thought about lately a lot is how like I problem solve to get something that I want, or like to achieve a certain thing. And it's weird because I think only recently I've started to realize like it's not about a thing usually. It's not about gaining a thing or doing a thing as much as none of these things ever happen unless it involves a connection with another person. It always requires another connection with another person, like in some way, to find that opportunity or to make a connection, or it's always like meet more people.
Right. And it's not, and I think you should, build a community because you like people.
Yeah.
Don't build a community with the goal of like, this is going to help me in my career. It's like, the people that I connected with are the people that I like.
Yeah.
And that's
it's my sociopathic mood board, Bill. How can I leverage these people? Somebody else asked, do you know any successful artists / illustrators that started doing art later in life, 30s to 40s?
A whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's I have one person in mind, but I don't know that he started illustration in I don't think he started then, but he found success then, which I think was didn't Jeff Love
Jeffrey Love, and Dale started late too. He was in a Jeffrey Allen Love started late because he was also a musician first.
Yeah. Was he? I think he was like 30 when he found success. I'm not.
Maybe just a little bit later than that too.
Okay. I don't mean to like Jeff, I'm sorry that I told
Oh,
people.
no, he'd be the first one to tell you. He had a, he had
Yeah.
a career as a musician
Uh-huh.
first.
Dale, how old was Dale when Dale started? He's
I don't
always
know how old he was, but same thing. He was, in a different industry.
he was in a hair band.
Yeah,
was
he's
here-
a
in
rock
here-
star.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think about that all the time. It's really hard. Do you find yourselves like comparing like when you hit certain ages to
Oh,
like,
totally.
oh, is that window closing? You know,
Yeah,
that didn't happen yet. Is that window closed?
yeah, all the time. It always gives me hope.
I do it constantly, but my list of people, I mean, it just gets smaller every year. You know? Yeah. I actually, this is a big year for me. I thought I was 34 and it turns out I'm actually 33. Yeah.
What?
How can you not know how
I
old
like
you are?
lost track of my age. Have you guys ever, has anybody, my mom did that once. She said she lost track of her age.
Yeah, I've done that a lot. I think sometimes I think I'm like 35 and no shit, I'm 60. Hey,
Oh man.
I mean, I do that daily.
I swear, I felt like I gained a whole year. I was like, yes.
That's
She-
hilarious.
She corrected me. She was like, you're 33. And I was like, what?
Oh my God, Timmy, that's hilarious. I've never not known how old I am. I mean, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I'm not laughing at you. But I'm laughing next to you.
But he is a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
This isn't
I wish-
just a me thing.
But here's the thing too. Like I did illustration for a long time before I started to make a decent living from it. And I was probably into my 30s.
Yeah.
And I shifted from doing comics to doing editorial.
Well, I didn't leave the grocery store till I was 35. So
Was that, Cassandra, was that scary? Because somebody actually just asked. could
yeah,
you
it
get-
was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a really nice job that gave me a discount on groceries and medical and retirement and vacation. And like my name didn't get to be signed on it, but I still got to paint and make really fun things. Like it was a good job, but I had a dream of making it on my own and doing the art I always really wanted to. So it was terrifying, and I questioned my decision like a lot.
Plus, you got like free dark roast coffee and.
Oh yeah, like it was great, but
Yeah.
so like my first year I really quit because I had twins, and so then they kind of came back and were like, well, do you want to freelance for us and help us open stores? So I was doing murals for them in my dining room, like with babies, trying to
Wow.
make that work. And I did that for about a year. And then like that kind of dried up. And then I really started pursuing fine arts. And it was terrifying. I had about 2 months of just a total pity party about it all.
Uh-huh.
And then I found a gallery, like I did a call for artwork at Juried Show, and I got everything I tried got in. And then from that show, they checked out my studio, I got representation, I got a solo show, and things then took off.
Wow.
That's great.
But I built up a full show and didn't show anyone because I didn't think anybody would want it.
Yeah, but you had really good skill set.
Yeah, that I worked really hard to build.
Absolutely. Something you stuck at. You stuck to it.
Somebody just asked, could you give any words of wisdom to someone who's making that leap?
Well, the advice that really stuck by me was from Icon back in 2002. I met Gregory Sanchez and I was terrified, and I was like, what do you do when you're just stepping out there? And his response is like, you just keep making art. Other people will quit. And the only reason I got better was I just kept doing it. And I got better and I got more opportunities. And so I just felt like the Thomas the Tank Engine, and I just kept working. And I kept working until what I created had a place.
There's a ton of truth to that. You know, that
Yeah.
you know, and again, it's like I see people fail in this industry a lot. You know, I get to talk to them during portfolio reviews and listen to their stories about what's happened to them. And most of the time it's just they didn't take the time to learn about the industry. They didn't focus on the industry part. They only focused on trying to be a better artist, which is part of it. It's a huge part of it. But still, what are you going to be an artist for? You know, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look past that. And
No, you're
it's not-
right. And research is really important in understanding like what you want to do and where that belongs.
Well, it's like, you know, I say it all the time. It's like portfolio is a job interview. You know, that's what represents you. Who is it? Who would go on a job interview without it researching the company before you went? You know, and I think artists, you know, put themselves in a bad position by not paying attention to the opportunities and what makes an artist successful.
What was comforting though is like, you know, hearing Chris paint, because Chris worked for a newspaper for, wasn't it like almost 10 years?
Well, no, he worked for he started in a studio rendering tires for a tire manufacturer in,
Wow.
I think, Toledo, Ohio.
And I loved hearing that. And I loved hearing Mark's story, like though what their first job was is going to be different for what it was for me, but it gave me a lot of hope. And it also opened me up to think outside of the box, because a lot of their first jobs were jobs that people wouldn't even realize was an art job or was something they wanted to do. And they started there and built.
Yeah. It's not always glamorous. Yeah.
No, it is not.
And that's okay. It's time in the market, not timing the market.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I just always think that it's like really, I think, silly, but it motivates me, and maybe it speaks to kind of Cassandra, like what you're talking, the tenacity of like sticking to it. Is just like I often will think like if I'm struggling with something that I really want to work, I'll be like, what if I quit now? And what if I was like 1 month away from this coming together? And that mentality has motivated me to stick with things so long. and it is, I would say 9 times out of 10 what I needed, which was like, to stick with it. You know, and my mom has always been a big proponent of this, is there are no mistakes. As long as you just make it work, I mean, short of like ethical and moral mistakes, but
Probably shouldn't have robbed that bank. But other than that,
yeah. But other than that, what she was talking about is like life decisions, like I want to do this or I want to do that. There's no mistakes. You just got to make it work. And it'll be fun. And I find a lot of comfort in that.
Yeah.
Because I think people are, the fear is what if I quit my job, and what if that was the wrong choice and it never happens, and then I've made the error, you know? And it's like, no, it's not that way.
I've never regretted quitting a job. I've regretted staying at a job too long.
Oh, Bill, me too.
You know, staying in a bad situation too long.
Because you don't get time back.
Right. Hey, Cassandra, I have a question for you. You said you're starting to get editorial illustration.
Oh, not editorial. Like like right now I'm working with a design firm doing some beer labels for a brewery and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm excited.
That's very cool. Yeah.
It's 7:45, so should we draw for another, John, want to draw for another 5 minutes? And
Yep.
then
I'll be
so
done with this guy by then.
I'm going to give a 3-minute warning in 2. So in 2, this is how complicated it's going to be. In 2 minutes, I'm going to give a 3-minute warning.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking to artists, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I know.
we need a deadline, you know, like, that's another thing too. If you want to do something, know that what motivates you. If you work really well with the deadline, give yourself a deadline, you know.
Yeah.
Make it firm, you know. And also, there's no really wrong directions. You're going to learn something from whatever you do.
This is totally kind of off path, but just on the topic of like something seemingly going horribly wrong and then it just turning out like, oh, it worked out, was my grandfather, when he was 15, he got arrested for stealing tires from an auto shop, and just recently found a news article about this. It ended up in the newspaper. It was like Michael Trayvon, not my brother, Michael Trayvon Sr., 15-year-old, was arrested for stealing tires, and he was sent to, he had just been sentenced, and his sentencing was he was going to juvie. And in the article it says, and in juvie he will be learning how to set type.
No way.
Press printing. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And lo and behold, my family still owns a printing company. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah. It's
Not that we condone anybody stealing tires, folks.
Yeah, we don't.
Don't steal tires. That's not the point of the story.
So the moral of the story is, if you steal tires, it usually works out. No,
There'll be interesting educational opportunities.
yeah, no, I just was thinking of that as like, it's just, I don't know, like so much of it is like kind of serendipitous.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Kind of
How did you
crazy.
get started? I stole tires.
Yeah. He was still probably very lucky, but yeah.
This is Maisel's mom's, who's also Mrs. Maisel. No, she's not Mrs. Maisel. What is her family's name?
Like Weitzel.
Remember the maiden name.
Yeah. Her eyes are so far over that it almost looks like,
I know, they really are.
I'm drawing it and it's like, this is like the creepy, you know, exorcist eyes here.
It's definitely some good side eye going on.
Well, all right, everybody. I'm going to give a 3-minute warning. So start posting your work to Instagram. We're going to move to Instagram in 3 minutes and check out everybody's art. So please post it using hashtag illustration isolation and @visualartspassage. Just be clear, the night is not over. We're going to look at everybody's work. So this is my favorite part of the night. So
Oh yeah.
please share your work with us. And in the meantime, somebody asked, what are some time management strategies you all have? John, you want to kick it off? Oh, well, you had good, you did have a system when you did editorial.
Yeah, I worked all night.
You built it into your schedule, right? You didn't.
Right. Oh no, I didn't. It wasn't like I was staying up for days at a time. I just decided it was better to work at night when my wife was at work and my kids were at school.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of time by myself. The phone didn't ring.
Yeah.
The downside is you have to be, if you do that, you have to get up, you have to be present, especially then because there was no email. You had to be present for part of the day to take phone calls. And a lot of times I was pretty haggard, pretty tired.
Yeah. Hey, Cassandra, you
What
got some shows to prepare for too?
Yeah, so my schedule is very like I feel like I don't fall into the normal parameters, but I only get to paint 3 days a week because my kids only go to preschool 3 days a week, and then a babysitter comes after their half day to watch them for just a few more hours. So I spend all my time around it preparing for that time to strictly paint. I can only paint and I don't let myself get distracted because otherwise I can't stay on track, or I won't meet the show's needs. So I think because I have such a tight schedule, that really forces me to treasure that time to paint. I think otherwise I could be distracted more. So for me, I personally find being very busy means I have to get it done so I don't have excuses.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself in a situation where like it's time to draw and you just don't want to, or you just can't?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you just
Yeah,
force
I'll
yourself to
bribe
do it?
myself. Like, oh, I'll make myself a really nice latte if I work for, 45 minutes to get past this point to this thing. And then I just kind of coach myself through it. Or I'll find a really good book to listen to, and I have to listen to, like, I'm only allowed to listen to it if I'm doing the work, or
That's
silly
cool.
things like that. I do.
Man, you're strict.
But you're easily tricked too.
Yeah, it works. I'm
I like it.
that silly.
Oh man, Tony Shalhoub's looking great there, John.
Thanks. It was a fun drawing, fun one to do.
I love Tony Shalhoub. He's the best.
He
What was
is.
his show? What was his show that was like?
Monk. He was
Monk.
also the taxi driver on Wings.
Yes.
Oh man, he's so good though as the dad on this show.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's fantastic.
In the show, he just got a job at the Village Voice.
Yeah, that's right. Got his first paycheck.
His first paycheck. What will this buy?
Was this for a whole week?
What will this buy? 1 egg.
Are we ready to
Two eggs.
move? Ready to move on?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm having a little bit of a trouble here. I broke my glasses,
Oh no.
and I have one side. It's really causing me some issues when I was drawing. It kept,
Could
kept
you
doing
just tape
this
it up,
to me.
to your forehead? Like,
I need to.
I think I went through a semester of school with Baron Story where he had glasses like that, and they just kept tilting sideways.
I'm gonna drop a link to a GoFundMe page for John.
Let's buy John.
poor
new
John.
It's not my chair, it's my glasses.
If it's not, Timmy's always complaining about something.
That's right. You gotta go out and spend money on something to satisfy Timmy.
Yeah. I mean, there was an era of that chair, John.
I was gonna say I'm nostalgic for the squeaky
a
chair.
character.
Y'all, for
Character
those who
on the
don't
show.
know, John
It
had a
was-
very squeaky chair, and anytime he moved, like, you knew he had changed position.
It wasn't just a character, John. It was like a lead character.
Well, yeah, it's still a character though.
Yeah, it's still a character.
Okay, so I'm gonna do one more time here, and then we're ready to go.
Ocean has a question. Any tips on avoiding your paper falling apart? I'm struggling with this using inks on both mixed media and watercolor paper. Use a thicker, heavier paper.
More durable paper.
Yeah, use a heavier weight paper.
Okay, I'm all set here. Get everybody out of the way.
Oh, fun.
This is great.
Oh wow, look at that.
Good stuff right out of the chute here.
Yeah.
Look at AJ.
Oh
Yeah.
God, look at that. She's,
Beautiful.
oh, I love the light on the side of her face.
Wow, look at that. Hey,
Nice,
this guy's in your comic class, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome, Julian.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Timmy, might be a good time.
Comics and sequential art currently enrolling.
Nice,
enjoyed
Sally.
Really? All right.
If you enjoyed drawing with us tonight, our mentorship classes are an immersive version of this where you're going to have a real relationship with your instructor. They're going to walk you through like all the questions that we're having tonight. It's a regular occurrence that you're going to be guided by a pro who is really there to act as your compass through the industry. I mean, that's kind of our whole goal, is to create a navigation tool for young artists.
Yeah, it's gonna help you with deadlines. It's gonna help you with time management. You're gonna learn a lot about putting pictures together to tell a story. And
Julian, you're on tonight.
Yeah, Julian, you're killing it.
So
There's
good.
been really, yeah.
Sorry, Bill, I interrupted.
No, that's cool. That's a cool one too. I love the one above it too.
Good job, Jeff.
I just dropped a link to the comics class in the chat. You can also check, I mean, like we've got digital painting, digital portrait painting with Raymond Bonilla coming up. And I should add, enrollment closes for all these classes tonight.
Good job, Ruby.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, look at that in the middle.
So this one?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
I love
Awesome.
it.
Love it.
This
Great
is
job.
Ruby.
Nice.
This is 9-year-old Ruby. Look out,
Oh.
Felicity.
That's right.
I just like
Want
that she got
somebody
the
younger.
jewelry. I really like how she handled it.
That's beautiful.
Bill said there's always somebody younger.
You're supposed to say, Bill, there's always a faster gun.
That's
You gotta be
right.
careful.
Faster gun.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Great stuff in here. Look at that.
Great drawings.
Very-
Oh, scary.
Cool,
Man, I
Gary.
love it. I love that.
So
hard
cool.
line.
Yeah.
Meta. Wow.
I like the one to the left of this too.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. It's hard to get a likeness out of that pose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. The bubble gum.
Nice, Gary.
Very cool. Her expression's great.
You know, a lot of these are just fantastic.
Oh, that's fun.
Look at that.
Nice.
Oh, he's back with dry erase. Really cool.
That's
Very
great.
nice.
Nice drawing, Gary. Man, you put down the pen that time. Wow. Leslie, very nice.
Yeah, that one's cool, Leslie.
A lot of great stuff in here. Did both of them. I like it. Okay, I know who this is. How do you have a voice at 10 years old? I mean, I can pick out her drawings anywhere, and they're just fantastic. God, that's good.
Really good, Felicity.
That's great.
Don't worry about the 9-year-old.
That's right.
Oh, that's really nice.
There's room for
too.
both of you.
There's room for both.
And you don't know what the 9-year-old's going to be doing when they're 10. You know, that's the
It
thing.
might-
The world is their oyster, you know?
There's a
Cool,
chance
Randy.
you could both end up in different industries. It's okay.
They're both going to be in the Hall of Fame at the Society of Illustrators one day.
And John and I will get residuals.
That's right. Well, of course, I won't be alive, but
And I'll be
110.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. That looks like her too, you know?
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. That's terrific.
Good
And
job, Karen.
excellent. Aaron.
Felicity.
Yeah.
They're sharing the same paint.
No, I think this whole row. Go to the middle one. Go to the
That
That's a
is.
whole row.
Yeah.
That's 3 generations. in
3
one row.
generations.
Good job,
Awesome.
Rebecca.
Awesome.
That's just fantastic.
Not everybody's putting their age down though. So
Yeah.
Hey, we did tell our age today.
Yeah,
Marcy.
I'm gonna assign it, you know.
Ooh, it's a
Bill.
good drawing.
56.
Oh, that is a good drawing. Good
That's really
job.
nice.
I like it, Kristen.
Oh, very nice. That's cool too.
Mhm.
Peter.
Oh,
Peter did
I like that
really
you
good
got
work.
background characters on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very fun.
all in one.
Mhm.
I'm just bouncing around here. Nice, Ocean.
This is
Mhm.
great.
Feel free to reach out to me about papers and stuff too. I think a lot about different
Yeah.
papers. trying
Oh,
to find
that's
the
cool.
right
I
thing.
love that you just had the
Wow.
jacket and the brooch.
Yeah,
But to
Color.
reach out to Bill, you have to sign up for his comics class. That's the
that's
deal.
right.
You got to go through me and John.
It's the only way to reach.
Yeah, we're the middlemen in this situation.
That's cool, Rat Gravy.
Look at that.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
I like
Oh, I
it.
love that. That's
That's
awesome.
really cool.
Very well done.
That's cool.
Oh,
That middle one.
I love that one. That's very
that
good.
is great.
That's so cool.
These are all good. These are really fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that Marcy? Yep. Very
Thanks,
nice.
Marcy.
Yeah.
That's a Marcy has a voice also. I can usually
Definitely, definitely.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, good job, E-Man.
That's so great. I love that.
Well, that's my husband.
Oh,
This guy?
Yeah,
I forgot. Yeah.
Cassandra, can we get him on the panel sometime? And we do
definitely. Should we do a
couples-
swap out?
no,
Can
no.
we get you
Oh.
on a panel and like kind of start an argument or something? You know, see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm just imagining I'm gonna have to boot both of you out, and then John will be like, "Never couples, no more couples again."
This is beautiful. That's a really
That is
nice
beautiful.
drawing.
Really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that red one too.
There's tons of great ones.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
feel-
really
I feel
cool.
really guilty not clicking on all of them. We don't have time, but
Oh, beautiful.
That's
Wow.
awesome. I love that one.
That is gorgeous.
really nice.
Yeah. Well done.
All of these are good lightness. Nice
Mhm.
ball.
Oh,
Yeah, click on it. Very good.
Mhm.
That whole row too.
That's got to be Peter. Yep.
Yeah,
Nice, Peter.
Mhm.
Look at this. This is awesome.
that is.
Oh, wow. Really cool.
Oh man, that's got to be Randy. Yep.
Yeah.
it's really cool when you start to see, who's who. I love it.
I don't know who this is. That's really nice though.
Mhm.
Some new people.
Yep.
That's cool.
You know, that's Nicole.
That's a good
I
bubble.
could tell that was
Bubble card.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh,
Love it.
cool. Love
Ruby,
it.
you rocked it. I
Absolutely.
love it.
The bubble gum, and that is great.
All right.
And I'm really impressed by your cursive.
Yeah.
Not enough people do cursive.
Great eyes.
I love
Mhm.
everybody's bubble gum.
Oh, that's both of those are great. Nice.
I know I have to click on it. Sorry. These are,
Yes.
these are awesome.
Oh, they're
That's
delightful.
fantastic.
Ruby got a hat. It's a hat trick for Ruby.
Yeah.
Yeah. She got all three.
I'm gonna get a formal complaint from Felicity tomorrow.
I like that one in the middle too.
Mhm.
Sally,
Oh, good
way to
job,
go.
Sally.
Wow,
Man.
that is really terrific. That's really fun.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
At these, is
That's
that
awesome.
Ocean?
Ocean, yeah.
yeah.
You're onto something, Ocean.
You're bringing it the way you got just a little bit of detail in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're onto something.
Kind of haunting, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at this.
Nice, Jeff.
That's really nice. That's
Wow.
Marcy. I knew that was Marcy.
That is delightful.
Very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Nice drawing.
Yeah. Really nice shading on the side of the face there.
Yeah.
That's the same one?
Mhm.
I love seeing
Posted
comments.
it twice. That's a way to do it.
I love seeing comments from other people doing illustration isolation on other people's artwork that all met doing this. I think that's
Yes,
cool.
it makes me happy too.
Yeah, and when we talk about community and stuff, it's like this is just one of the many things you can do
Yeah.
to do that and to meet people, you know?
Fun, Jeff.
I mean, we're coming up on 2 years of doing this?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Crazy.
Look at
Wow.
this.
Oof, that one's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Certified Alberto. I love that.
Is this Ocean again?
Yeah.
Nice Ocean. Well, I know who this
Oh,
is
that's
too.
cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's
Who's
really
Leon? Who is that? That's awesome. Love it. All right.
We hit the end.
Well, I'm gonna go watch Marvelous Mrs. Maisel because I haven't seen it before, so I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
A nice Lisa Stewart piece there.
all right, everybody. This was a lot of fun. We'll see y'all next week. Don't forget about tonight's the last few hours to enroll if you want to take the
Yeah.
class.
Don't miss it. Sign up now. Other than
All
that,
right.
everybody, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
gonna get some new glasses. See y'all.
You just need some good tape.
Yeah.
Night.
Hey, guys.
All right. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, guys.